Hello, I'm football commentator Derek Ray, and you're listening to the FUT Weekly Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to week 40 of the FUT Weekly Podcast. This is going to be another one of those hybrid episodes, potentially. We will, though, talk a bit more about gameplay on the Supporter episode this week, so just a heads up if you've been missing some gameplay chat over the last week or two. But yes, we have another solid lineup, an increasingly familiar lineup, which is nice. First of all, we'll introduce Josh Excels. Hello, Josh. Good to have you back.
Yeah, good to be here. It's the window's open and the fan's on. It's not quite the 40 degrees or whatever it's supposed to get up to on Thursday, but yeah, it's shaping up to be a warm one. I've missed my first few games of the World Cup now. There's just a few. I love football, but Algeria, Jordan is not something I'm going to be staying up to see the dawn for. It's been kind of fascinating week in football and also in FC. Great to see the games here. Kind of the biggest icon promos back, and yeah, I've got some thoughts.
Doesn't help that the dawn is quite early at the moment because we just had the solstice here.
It was the longest day of the year 2 days ago, wasn't it? So.
And yeah, it's funny when you said the window was open. I thought you talked about the transfer window, which is also true. But yes, we have also on this podcast NepentheZ. Nice to have you back. Hello.
Hello, yeah, thanks for having me again. It is becoming a bit of a trio now, isn't it?
Yeah.
With the boys have been invited in.
And yeah, I think we've got quite a bit to get through actually, because as far as I remember, we had you on just before tokens came into the game. We had the big kind of update to Ultimate Team, and we have talked about that quite a lot since, but it would be strange not to chat to you a bit about that, so we will do it. And maybe before, though, just to make sure we get in a bit of the current content that we've had, we'll talk a little bit about, what we, I guess, like about and don't like about Greats of the Game so far. Path to Glory is obviously a lot of fun because we've got live items and that links into the World Cup. Greats of the Game, kind of, it is just ultimately a icon-themed campaign, and that is nice, I guess, for people who like icons, and it is fun, but I guess it's like, there's not as much to it. But I think to start off, Josh, just kind of the thing that's most obvious is, and maybe we can kind of do pound for pound at the same time, give a few of our best value players as we do it, but like they are like noticeably very cheap, and is that because like they are just really low or high weight, I guess, or common, or what is the kind of causing that? Because people have been wondering.
I don't think it's because they're super high weight necessarily. I think when you have the number of icons we have in packs and heroes as well, that actually their drop weight becomes similar to the promos that we've been having, and because we have these insane packs that we're getting on such a regular basis, people are packing icons very regularly, and that's not something you're used to. And I often think that we have a few promos through the year where EA go, okay, this is what it's like to pack an icon, and you realise it's not that special. And so I think it's not necessarily that they are that much more common than any other promo team. I just think most of the cards aren't that great, or like not even necessarily that they aren't that great, but we are so far into the game cycle now. We've had so many good cards. You look at the Path to Glory cards, you look at the Team of the Season cards, and then you add into that evolutions. Actually, even the 4 playstyle plus icons, there are going to be selections of 3 playstyle plus players from Team of the Season, or that people have in their clubs that are Evos, that can compete or are better because they have better playstyles, because that's what the game is around so much. And like, I'm going to pick someone out as an example, like Lilian Thuram. He quite often is a very popular icon, and very often being used at centre back. In fact, I think he's had a few quite expensive players this year. I think he had a Team of the Year icon that had Bruiser and Jockey Plus as 2 playstyle pluses when that was still kind of in vogue, and that people really enjoyed using that card. It was very expensive. They would use it at centre back. He's got a 95 rated that has Rapid Plus. And yes, he's got Jockey and Anticipate, but because he's got Rapid as a 3rd playstyle plus and he's got no 4th playstyle plus, no one's using him at centre back because you don't use Rapid at centre back. And so you start like, and okay, he's fine at right back, but now you've got no passing playstyle pluses from right back. He doesn't have quick step, and you kind of go in, well, like what? I don't know what this card is for. This promo, and I'm now conscious of the fact that we spoke about this with Seb last week, actually, where we often sit there going, who's this for? And actually, it's for casuals. It's for people who maybe haven't played the game for a while and want to get their team back up to where it is. And actually, icons seem to have this place in a community that isn't the hardcore community, that where they are ranked so much higher, that actually maybe this is the promo to try and get people back in, to go, hey, like, come and pack some icons, because it's easy to pack them, and they'll get in your team if you've not really been around for most of team of the season. But I mean, on the pricing front, I got from one of the player pick upgrades, I got team of the season 𝘵𝘃 yesterday, and I was like, oh, that's quite nice, like 96 rated. It's only 3 playstyle pluses, but it's fine. And I checked his price, and he was like 350k, and I kind of went, oh, that's all right. And then I looked at the price of Grades of the Game and went, I've just packed like the 5th or 6th most expensive player if he was in this week's promo. Like, it is incredible, the kind of difference in prices, and I think, like, just to hammer that point home of where these icons are, there's only 2 of them that aren't the 3 that were in the token store from like the beginning of the season. There's only 2 of them in the first 30 players of GG rating, and I think that maybe tells you why their prices are where they are. In terms of if we are doing a pound for pound, not to try and like cover the board too much, I quite enjoyed a packed Mario Kempes, and obviously new icon, and being a 4 playstyle plus player, I wanted to give him a go. And I think his price is quite low because he kind of doesn't have that much that's that overpowered. But at central attacking midfield, he could absolutely do a job. I wouldn't ever play him at striker unless you're maybe playing a false 9, because he doesn't have anything in terms of pace, really. He's got like base rapid but no quick step. And again, that was the thing, we talked about during team of the season. It's like every player had quick step because you kind of needed to have it, and it was very rare that team of the season wouldn't have quick step. So many of these icons don't have quick step. So but yeah, he was good fun if you wanted to try out a new icon with 4 playstyle pluses. I have others, but I won't steal off other people because I think there are quite a few good value cards.
Yeah, I was going to say Beckham for me looks really good. He's only like 30k and has, I think, probably if you're playing a 3 in midfield, 3 of the better playstyle pluses, I think, in terms of finesse plus, incisive plus, and pinged plus, and then has low driven as well, tiki-taka, inventive, technical, rapid, which I think are all quite useful for creating chances in that kind of area. Which, yeah, and I think, yeah, as I said, 35k, you can't really do much better than that. But yeah, I agree. I think it's really interesting. It's like maybe also kind of one of those things where the players that have good stats don't have good playstyle pluses, and the players that do have good stats seem to have weird, or the other way around. It's a kind of a strange situation for certain players. Like I was looking at Cafu, who theoretically you'd be like, oh, he must be really good because he's Cafu and he has intercept plus, ping plus, and quick step plus. And then I noticed he was like the 40th ranked fullback in the game, which is interesting. And I think that's mainly because he has actually, like, his stats are decent but not phenomenal. But then, like, you're really looking at those kind of like 1 or 2 missing playstyles at this point to then not get a kind of good ranking for the player. Like, he's missing Bruiser, and I think that's really kind of hurting him. And I think, he can't be lengthy, for example. So those kind of things are like actually kind of causing people to drop down the rankings quite a lot, as these players kind of really are almost perfected to some extent. But yes, Nep, how have you been finding it? And do you feel like it's actually been good? What do you think of the players that we've had?
Yeah, I thought the player selection was great. There's a few Arsenal past and presents in there, which I really enjoyed. There's also Beckham is there, and he's one of my favourite players of all time, and so is Gareth Bale, who I managed to pack, which was quite delightful. I think they look fine. They look genuinely just fine, right? There's a lot of really cool cards there, and the fact that they're accessible on the market, I think, is really important and really powerful as well, because people can just go and buy. There's like some old favourites, Roberto Carlos or Cafu or Marcelo. They're so cheap, they're so affordable for people that it's fun to just put them into a team. I think the pricing is a lot. Josh mentioned it a bit. Like, we're so deep into the game cycle, and there's been so many great cards. And actually, my kind of pound for pound would actually be like maybe 𝗤𝘃𝗁𝘁, the objective card, because he just looks insane. I played with him already. He feels insane, and he's an objective card. I don't know what more you could want than that. But I think that's why a lot of these cards are so cheap, because you've now had 3 top tier icons from those objectives throughout the 3 weeks. Also, the Path to Glory cards, the ones where you can actually put your own playstyles and playstyle pluses on them. I can't remember what they're called. Not the star performers, the other ones. You got about like 40 of those from doing the objectives. Like, people have got an abundance of top end cards that they can like create their own brands of. And the biggest thing for why I think the prices are cheap is because now you can withdraw or remove one or all evos. People can really now hone in on the players that they specifically want, evo them. If it goes wrong or a better evo comes out, bring them down a stage or 2, put them back in. And so there's very little reason to just want these cards for the sake of wanting them. With that being said, though, I think they're brilliant. Like, this is what I think the game should be about. Everyone should have relative access to everything that's in packs and as a promo, and the exclusivity for cards should come from like objectives or skill, like whether that be collecting tokens or getting 15 wins in champs. That should be giving people the kind of like exclusive, oh my god, you've got that player, how cool are you? Whereas these cards here should just be like, you get to try, you get to play, and you get to experience the game in a good manner. So I'm really happy with it, which is surprising for me, especially at this stage of the game.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting, because we got a sort of, I guess, question in from 𝗪𝘀𝗀𝘀 here saying, has anyone else found that promos have felt a bit underwhelming this cycle compared to evolutions? The recent Icon promo is a good example for me. There are some huge names in there, but the cards themselves just don't look that exciting. I saw NepentheZ describe the promo as bang average on X and thought he pretty much hit the nail on the head. The player selection looks great on paper, but a lot of the actual items don't feel especially desirable when compared to what's already available through Evos. Outside of live promo cards, which at least have the potential for upgrades, I found that most promo players are quickly outclassed by well-planned Evo chains. It feels like the most exciting cards in my club are usually Evo players rather than the cards from the latest promo. From what I've seen, this doesn't seem to be an isolated view either. It feels like the sentiment is shared by a fair chunk of the wider community. Have you guys felt the same this year? And if so, what do you think it might do in future editions to make promo cards feel more relevant, again, without undermining evolutions? Could we see more upgradable promos, deeper links between promos and Evos, or a different approach to the power curve altogether? I think that he did say this on, I think this came in on Friday night, maybe. So I guess your thoughts might have changed slightly from then. But actually, I think almost, and what people are following up with after that comment is that actually maybe this is a campaign for the newer players and for people to kind of get hold of the odd icon here or there that they'd like to use. And so I suppose if that's kind of the aim, then it's is that what you're kind of saying? That actually that's quite nice. People can get hold of those players, and it doesn't need to be as good as Evos to be valuable to the game, I guess.
That's exactly it, actually, I think, because it is bang average. Like, the players are average. Like, I called on the 6 p.m. video that I did on Friday, I called the fact that 𝗪𝘃𝗀𝘀𝗀's card would crash, because he just isn't great for the game, no pun intended. But I was right, and I got like people like no chance, like this card's, he's insane. And I think people remember the 𝗪𝘃𝗀𝘀 of like the FIFA 19 era, where he was so overpowered. He had that Team of the Year. It was like a flashback style card, and he's had some insane icon cards. And so it is average in that sense. But the reason why I actually have come to really like it and such is because people that have been playing this game all year have got these insanely curated Evos. They've got these, you've had months of rewards. You've got so many coins. You've got so many cards. If you're new to the game, you can't go and make a broken, overpowered Evo overnight. It would still take time. Whereas these cards are your entry point into, hey, my team's as good as everyone else's. I can carry on playing, and they're not unobtainable. So I do really like it for that reason. It's not for everyone, but they're like, we're looking. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this, but there's something coming next year, new cards type. That's like a third stage of icon hero, and then, like, I don't know what they're called, but I think they should have been in the game anyway for years. Like your fan favorites, your club favorites and stuff. And I really like that, because there's a lot of players there that I want to use and that I really like. And I think they can do a lot with kind of like, like from Josh's perspective, like a Nicky Butt or someone like that, somebody that meant so much to Manchester United, but would just never get an icon or a hero card. And for me, someone like 𝗪𝘃𝗀𝘀, like I would just love to have 𝗪𝘃𝗀𝘀 in the game. But I think the problem that it creates is there's just too many players now. Like, how can anything be worth something if there's so much on offer? And so I think for new players, this is really good because they can come in, they can buy these cards, they can bring their team right up to scratch immediately. But then they hit the same problem as everyone else of like, well, what now? What next? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, I think you're right. Josh,
I do find it interesting. Just to go back to that thing about the Evo question, and I think that is a problem with a lot of the game right now. But I mean, I've just kind of had a quick piece together on Evo Lab of like Evos that could fit base Vieira, because I got base Vieira. I can't remember. I think I might have just packed him out of a pack at some point. And I can create one that is almost 9 goal and gang with like really good passing stats, like 92 pace, 93 passing, 94 dribbling, 93 defending, 94 physical, and I can pick all of his play styles. And 3 playstyle pluses and 8 base play styles. And I could make a better version than the 95 that's in packs, even though that's got 4 playstyle pluses, and probably is one of the better 4 playstyle plus players in terms of like what those playstyle pluses are. But I can make a better version because he's probably more got playstyle pluses for a centre back than necessarily like a midfielder, because there's no passing playstyle plus there. Whereas like but even that thing of like having the agency over it, and that's why a 4 playstyle plus Vieira is only like 250k, or maybe it's 350k. But I look at him stats wise, and to go back to that thing about looking at some of the players with good stats and the players with good playstyles, and go, he's just all right. Like 90 pace, 95 defending, 95 physical is decent, but 87 passing, 88 dribbling is shocking for a midfielder. And I just kind of, I don't know, it makes it kind of a difficult promo to get super engaged with as a more hardcore player, because you have all of these things already going on. And I think that's where maybe like Evos this week have been, I feel like they've been better. And I think we're now at that point because we've had so many weeks past the ability to remove Evos that people have now got these Evos that they've been able to recurate and re-put back together, and now they're upgrading them again. They've almost like restarted that cycle. Just to kind of briefly pick up on like the too many players thing, I've seen those leaks as well, and I honestly thought we were going to get like a third tier of kind of old card when we got the Ġirviniņo, Dumbia and 𝘵𝘂𝑚. That feels like where they fit rather than like in heroes. It kind of lessened that pool of heroes to some extent. And I do agree with you. I feel like there is a danger of oversaturation of the number of players. Special cards are no longer special, and there was a conversation in the Discord, without getting too like kind of meta about talking about what's going on within the podcast Discord, but there was a conversation where someone packed R9, and it was kind of like, hey, well done. Whereas like if in years gone by that would have been like insane and everyone would have been losing their minds, but I don't know, there's something about the volume of packs, something about the volume of special cards has kind of done that. It goes back to that Incredibles lines, like if everyone's super, no one is. It kind of feels like it's something is lost when you want to give everyone that feeling of opening loads of packs and packing something, because everyone's got that experience, and I don't know.
On the point of the R9 as well, just while it's in my head before we would possibly move on, people have had access to 2 R9s already this year from playing the game. Yeah. So packing someone has that little extra, but people, I think the World Tour Silver Superstar icons, which for some reason are still not available to be evoed, even though all these icons are dirt cheap and you can now evo their base versions and kind of get these like elite cards out of them anyway. But I think the World Tour Silver Superstar icons have really filled that void for a lot of people. I've got like an in real life friend, not many of them mind you, but I've got one that plays FIFA, and his team is just the World Tour Silver Superstars, and I said to him like, but you can't really evo them and stuff. He's like, I don't care, just really love playing with the players that I grew up watching and stuff. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like he only plays squad battles, really, a little bit of live events, and he loved them. And so now something like this for, like Josh says about Vieira, not for him per se, but for people in general, they've got a Vieira, they've got a Ronaldo. Like, so packing them really is like how much is he worth? And that's it. That's all people care about now.
So, interesting. I think one of the things that I'd like say about this is, like, I do think that campaigns have increasingly, like, because of Evos, kind of have to be catered towards more casual players, and I think that's almost like maybe a deliberate thing, because if you look at the players that we get through campaigns, like, they will, even like, someone like Vieira we were just talking about, he might have 4 great playstyle pluses, but he doesn't have incisive at all or pinged. And anyone who's like a hardcore is like, oh, like, I don't know whether I even want to use that player, and like Nep, you got him probably just because it's Vieira, right? And like, I think that is kind of how these things will slightly go, but because of and I mean, it's different with, like, kind of earlier on in the cycle where you have icons that you can't evo, for example, and people want to pick up a promo icon because, that's the only way they can get them, that sort of thing. But I think by this point in the cycle, I think we kind of have to accept this is probably how it's going to work, because we just have so many evo opportunities, and us committed players, like, know what we want in the game, kind of thing. So I think it does change things. But yeah, let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk maybe more broadly about Ultimate Team and tokens and all that kind of stuff right after this.
Hello, and in this break, a quick reminder that the pod is made possible by supporters. The pod didn't used to be weekly. Yes, Foot Weekly wasn't actually weekly for a time. And then someone suggested setting up the Patreon. And since then, the pod has been weekly. And in fact, it's been twice weekly because there is that supporter episode every single week. So if you'd like to catch that episode and keep the podcast going, it's just £3 a month to do so. And you get loads in return. And there are perks higher than that, including access to the Discord too. So if you're interested and would like to support the podcast, then head over and search Support for Weekly. Go to Patreon, and it's very easy to sign up. If you are a supporter keeping the podcast going, then a huge thank you for doing so. And if you do consider supporting, a huge thank you too. Right, let's jump back into the pod.
Hello, welcome back after the break. So, in the break, actually, you were saying it's interesting because packing player on goals, for example, feels kind of different to Ultimate Team for various reasons, and it's maybe a little add-on point we can make before moving on.
Yeah. I was kind of just I asked because I didn't know if I was allowed to talk about goals on here. Otherwise, I would have said it, before the break. But one thing that I really like about what they have in their game is that when you open a pack, you get like a player. It could be like a 46 plus player or a 70 plus player. But the player that comes out has random stat distribution. So they could have 90 pace with like 99 acceleration and 80 sprint speed or whatever. Or they could literally have, for example, like 60 dribbling, but 99 close dribbling. And I really like that in itself. But they also have potential. So you could pack a random low tier player that has 92, 93 potential, and then the course of the game is earning the points to upgrade that player. Whereas in FIFA, like when I pack a player, I look at the market and I say, how much is he worth? What can I sell him for? Not that I necessarily need the coins because I'm not going to buy a player either, because I just don't find value in like the market really. But I wonder if EA, and I don't know how they would do it with the current structure of the game and where Evos are specifically as well, but I wonder if EA could find a way to make packs and packing a player less about, oh, hey, what's he worth? What can I get for him? And more about, what can he do for my club? How can I use him to my advantage? And if I can't, then he goes into an SBC or maybe into an Evo. But how can I get value out of the player rather than, like, from a gameplay sense, rather than how many coins can I get for the player? Because I engaged a lot with that in goals, and I really enjoyed that concept that they had, and I think it would do really well in EA. I just don't think it would work with how they've got the game set up currently.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think that's an interesting point, and my kind of immediate response is in terms of like packing something that's special or like has meaning outside of just like what it's worth on the market. I remember when people would change up RTGs to try and make it more challenging. Like, it was a challenge just to run an account for free, and like, this is what you can build, and that's why the RTGs took off. And over time, it got easier and easier and easier until we got to the point where it became can I do it with just cards that I pack? Like the pack-only RTGs. And initially, they were really difficult to run, and every card you packed was important. It kind of added this, like, new element to playing the game because every pack, every player was important. But then we're now at a point where those pack-only RTGs, you're kind of done after, like, a week again because you get so many packs. And yes, you can improve and you can get better first owner stuff, and absolutely you can still do it. I effectively run a pack-only RPG, and I think most people do. Like, I don't think a lot of people go out and buy players, or not as much as they used to anyway. And yet, people still have these amazing teams. And that thing about, like, it's almost about make packs great again. Like, you know, there's kind of an element of that sense of the endorphin rush from opening a pack is great, but when you have too much of it, it lessens it, and the more you get of something, it makes it meaningless to the point where, like, I'm using extensions on the web app. I can make like 60 2x84 packs, and I will just set them to all open, and I'll see what I get at the end of it. And if I pack something insane, I'll find out when it shows me the list of players that I've packed at the end of it. And so, am I getting that endorphin rush still? Like, there've been a few times where I've been sat, like, on my, like, 600th SBC of the day going, what am I even doing this for? Because you're not getting the rush out of doing it. There's an element of completionist, which I think is why I do it. But I do think that in the pursuit of kind of giving people the, that kind of chemical response that EA want you to have that keeps you coming back to play the game, actually you've lost the reason why that chemical response was good in the first place. So yeah, I'm conscious of them. I feel like they try to be masters of multiple different types of game, like the kind of mobile gotcha games, gacha games, but also like a football simulator. But there's also like other elements of it, of, you know, these kind of like puzzle games where, and that's actually transferred now from SBCs to evolutions. So like, are they trying to do too much? And in trying to do too much and trying to be all things to all men, they've actually lost some of the magic of what made it special. Yeah.
I mean, I think you're kind of right in that sense, and actually this kind of feeds us into talking about what we're thinking of talking about in this section, which was sort of the changes we've had to Ultimate Team recently. I think we've been talking a lot about Evo, so maybe we actually, not a lot, but a bit about Evo. So let's start there. What are your thoughts on being able to remove Evos, Nep? And also, I guess, the addition of the Playstyles Lab. I think there was a lot of excitement when we were chatting about it before. Has that kind of proven to be true?
They nailed it. Like, it's brilliant. I tell you what I really, really like as well is I thought you'd be able to remove one Evo or all Evos. But the fact that you can remove an Evo and then remove another Evo, and you can scale back a card 5, 8, 10 chains if you wanted to, is really cool. But it also means that they hold that information on the game, which should mean for you guys, for example, surely you should be able to scrape that information, and so somebody could like put in their card or connect their account some way, and you could just say, oh yeah, here's your Evo chain, this is what you've done so far. Like, but I think for Evos, you know, as I said earlier, I think the horse has bolted for me for a lot of things, because I just think it's too late now. I can't be bothered to start a new Evo chain, and I can't figure out what I've done on some cards to know how far to scale them back to still keep them how I want to, like, re-Evo them. But for next year, I think this is a huge positive. Like, being able to like freely make a mistake, or not even make a mistake, but like the amount of Evos this year that I didn't put onto somebody because it created a card I didn't want and I was waiting for something better. Well, now I'll do it, because I just know when the thing that I actually want comes, I can just take this one off. And it had me engaging. I was actually playing 4 Evos for about 4 or 5 days after this came out. I started getting my Arsenal guys like back up to scratch. I was playing live events to complete my Evos again, and I genuinely had fun with it. So I think they've nailed Evos. I think it's a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And I mean, have you found that similarly, Josh, that you can just kind of, think less about what you're doing Evo-wise?
Yeah, it just feels they've removed that Evo regret to some extent that you would have. I still think you have that element of, I've maybe used this Evo on the wrong player. I wish I'd held on to it to use on this player. And so an ability to redo an Evo again, I think would be good. I'm just worried. I keep going back to this thing of like, the more you make Evos better, the less everything else matters. And I'm fine. If that's the direction the game goes in, that's absolutely fine. From my perspective as a player, I'm not sure it'll be fine from an EA perspective in terms of the bank balance, because if packs are no longer meaningful, then are you going to see fewer people buying points to open those packs? So that and so hand in hand with that, my brain then goes to, are we maybe going down a path of like Evos being made worse? It's nice to get these things. We spoke about it last week. It's nice to get these things now at this point in the cycle where they don't need to worry too much about them being overpowered. But when Playstyles Lab comes next year from the off and it's 4 playstyles, base playstyles, and that's it, are people going to be like, what is this? Because I'm used to 3 playstyle play. I'm used to like creating my final card. They can't do that from the off, and I would be very surprised if they allowed you to get anything near what, say, like an icon or one of the top players has in the game from the start of like a playstyle plus and 5 or 6 base playstyles. I just can't see that being the case from the beginning of the game. So yeah, there are definitely elements to it that would worry me in the future, but in terms of how it's affected the game now, yeah, because there are so many Evos, it's become quite crippling, I think, trying to choose what the best path is. And I still think we have some issues in terms of, like, trying to find the best path for your players because there are so many. And maybe they're giving us so many Evos to try and go, hey, this isn't what they're for. You're not supposed to try and find the best, but you're not supposed to try and break Evos. God, guys, what are you doing here? It's like, yeah, but if you give me the opportunity to do something overpowered that gives me a leg up, I'm gonna do it. So yeah, I think that's where I think this has helped, because it means I can just, especially with like some of those smaller Evos that you get from doing objectives, you just go, right, okay, it fits onto this player, let's just do it. Like I don't need to think about it. It doesn't matter if I get it wrong. There'll be more Evos coming next week because there's going to be a whole load more objectives as well. So yeah, it's definitely been a massive improvement for the game. I feel like I see more Evos in people's teams now than I was doing. I think during Team of the Season, it became quite light in Evos in terms of who I was playing, but I feel like I'm seeing more of it. I keep coming up against like full Evo teams that are running a theme, whether it's like a teams or nations. I'm coming up against quite a few really random nations that I like. There was one that felt like they were just trying to go for all the stands, which I absolutely loved. Like there's Uzbekistan, there was I'm sure there was like a Kazakhstan player. That was pretty fun, and so that's where I'm like, okay, if this allows people to engage with the game in that way, then yeah, I think the way it's been implemented, I think the Playstyles Lab as well. You know, we had those first cards for like the man of the matches, you know, the kind of star performers in that first week. I've only packed the Cape Verde centre back Lopez. Hey, big up Cape Verde, by the way. They've got a chance of going through now. But like, I don't know. I think they've got Evos to a very, very, very good place now. I wonder if the way that has affected like how we perceive greats of the game, is that going to affect the like more promos next year if you have this kind of ability to really curate your best Evos, and especially at the beginning of the cycle where you constantly upgrade your player above the like Evo limit effectively. Like let's say we're at okay, you can't Evo players that are higher than 85 rated. You quite often get bumped up to 86, 87 through Evos. Well, if next cycle you can just undo to then redo in a better Evo, where does that then leave? That then kind of accelerates the power curve of Evos a little bit more, because you're not having to have a second kind of striker, let's say, that you're wanting to bump up through this next evolution. So yeah, there are a few elements of it that I think will change the way people interact with Evos that we haven't necessarily seen yet, because we're so deep into this cycle. But yeah, the implementation is great. The fact that you can go back one by one, and as Nep was saying, this was a conversation we had, that if that data is there, that say like foot.gg can scrape of like, this is the every Evo that has been put on this player, I think that starts from content perspective, from like a social perspective of going like, this is the path that I've done, and you can literally see every single Evo in step instead of kind of having to build it one by one and then showing it. I don't know, there's something that's quite exciting about that from like a social perspective.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know, like obviously a lot of those paths that people have, you can't do them because they were done in the past, but obviously for active Evo paths, I think there's a lot more interest in those now because you can strip a player back. So like, people might have done an SBC, there might be a popular SBC from October that's not really that popular, but then if someone comes up with a path that is strong with the current active Evos, that's something kind of everyone who still has that player can do now, which is interesting. So there is an element of, well, I guess in a way that can make things less unique, perhaps, if people are just copying that. But also actually there's more kind of collaboration potential now, where people aren't just completely in their own bubble with what Evos they've put on a player. It's kind of can be a bit more widespread, which is kind of nice in some ways. But also it's interesting, like, does it matter that Evos become, for committed players, much more exciting than campaigns and promos? In a way, it's maybe not surprising because those things have to be fairly generic, whereas like you can kind of do your own little journey. You can Evo all your stands, and like, I don't know, there's just a kind of a bit more to that. And I think I was talking on the last podcast about how like a lot of us did make our own journeys back in the day when there wasn't that much to do in the game, and it does feel more like that than just kind of waiting for the next campaign and seeing who you happen to pack. And yeah, I don't know, it's interesting, but yeah, we should probably move on to talk about the next, and maybe, I don't know, probably bigger thing, just kind of like to get your head around, and that's tokens. Again, we talked before they came into the game, Nep. I mean, maybe remind people what you were thinking before that happened and kind of how it's gone since then.
Yeah, my thoughts were that it's great. Like, I think it's the way the game should be, but it shouldn't be capped. I think if people want to earn more, they should get to earn more. And like, if EA do want a kind of hard stop on it, then just have a limited number of things in the store. So like, once you've cleared out the store, you've got to wait for the next refresh, and to even clear out the store would still take significant amount of time and gameplay. It's not like you can just sit there in one session and earn all the tokens. And that's kind of how it's been, to be fair. Like, I hit that first week cap pretty early on. I think EA didn't really anticipate, which is wild from them, that the squad battles and rivals tokens for that week didn't actually come till next week. So they had to do like a bit of an emergency play 7 in squad battles, play 7 in rivals. And I had already found myself saving tokens for the next week, to the point where when the token week changed over, I had like 865 of the 1,000 immediately. And I'm like, well, now what's the point of me playing anymore? And so it did literally everything I thought it would do. I like the store. I do like the store. I've opened a few of those 500 token packs. I've got a few of the evolutions that I'm kind of just holding for the right card, like that skin that you could put on and stuff. It does give a big boost, I think, to 94, but I still quite like it. But yeah, I like the store. I just don't like the cap. But I think tokens are brilliant. And again, I think next year I will play, like, if I do an RTG, I want to do something around Arsenal and something around Evos, especially now we're Premier League champions. There's like, maybe there's a bit more like merit to me using an Arsenal team, rather than every time I use it in game just getting abuse from everyone I'm playing against, being like, you'd never win a trophy, get rid of this team. And I'm excited to be able to save my tokens for when something that I want arrives, even if that's like a card in a promo team. If there's something akin to the 81x10s and I've got 5,000 tokens to just go and rip it as many times as I can to try and get that promo card, that's going to be great. If there's an Arsenal past and present icon, hero, or other that gets put in, that's going to be great. If there's something for champs tokens, like the 𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘦, I didn't actually play for because my Evo 𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬 is better, but that would be worth playing for. So I think the system itself is absolutely brilliant by design. I just wish they would give us a bit more freedom with it.
Yeah, it's interesting from a content perspective. I guess you'd both be able to speak to this. There's kind of an interesting thing where obviously you can save tokens, and actually sort of having multiple accounts on the go, or I guess like, you know, share plays and stuff like that, of those like top tier rewards when they come are probably going to be something that's a big deal, because at the moment, a lot of those things, everyone has to wait to some extent, or, you know, top players can kind of get to that quicker. Certainly in terms of champs rewards, I say top players, like, that's skill based, but outside of that, it's basically a kind of waiting game until you get to that point. So is that kind of exciting from that perspective? You actually have a bit of that. Like, I mean, it reminds me a little bit of when we had really good champs rewards and people would kind of care about those things.
Yeah, so this is why I kind of would from a selfish content point of view, I would love it to be uncapped for tokens, because I would love to do here's what 10 of these packs look like. Here's what 5 of the 1,000 token packs look like. Here's me getting every single player in the store. Here's how they play together, like those sort of things, because then people that don't have unlimited time, so can't get unlimited tokens, can then through you vicariously be like, yeah, okay, I'm actually going to go for the players because they were sick for him. I don't want to risk it with the packs because I saw those and they were terrible for him. You can either do that through multi accounts at this point or through share plays, but I do think share plays might come back with a bang next year for rewards for the token stuff. But I also think there's a lot less pressure. Like, you know, RTGs, as Josh said earlier, they've died. Like, they boomed for certain reasons. They've died for views. There's always a pressure when you're creating an RTG to have a big title, to upload every day, to have something worth people clicking on. And it got to a point where if you didn't get sort of like rank 3, rank 2 or rank 1 champs rewards, people didn't care. It's like, yeah, anyone can get rank 5 rewards. Nobody gives a crap. And if you didn't have elite rivals rewards, nobody cared. Well, now I don't have to be a rank 1 player of champs to get the rank 1 reward. It's just that video will come every other week rather than me trying to force it every week. And so I actually think from a content perspective, we can create a lot better content. Like, I've been playing and making Division 2 content recently, and I've learned a lot from the way that they title things and the way that they create their content. And they create it for people that haven't played the game, not for people that are playing the game. And some of the videos have far outperformed my FC content, which is insane. Like, for me being in a new game, and it made me think about what do people actually want to see in Ultimate Team outside of the hardcores? Because if you're a hardcore, let's just be real, you're probably watching 𝘬𝘳𝘀𝘀, you're probably watching 𝗵𝘀𝘀, you've already got your select creators that you're already watching if you're a hardcore. So when somebody creates something that's maybe a bit more unique, they don't really care. But the Sell a Cow objective, that was literally my top performing TikTok over the last few months, because casuals were like, well, how the hell do I do this? You know, beating the squad battles on Legendary or conceding less than 3 on Ultimate, it meant something to people. And I think these rewards next year can mean something to people. So yeah, from a content perspective, I'm really excited about what it opens up for next year.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, yeah, I think shaking up. I mean, people were talking about, I don't know, you hear people saying, creators should do things differently because, like, you know, it's been very samey. But I mean, I guess in many ways the economy of the game, kind of in the ecosystem of the game, has been quite similar for a little while, apart from Evos, perhaps. So this does kind of change up the kind of patterns that people are going through each week. And it's interesting you mentioned the players that you can get through the token stores. I did want to point out, because I was going to mention it as pound for pound, but I don't think I'd really actually recommend people. I don't know. I feel like token players in the champs store, I'm just a bit like, are you really going to go in for a player when you could kind of have a gamble on something that could get you something a lot better than that? And I've also talked before about how, I don't know, there's something about a champs red that you can just go buy rather than it being like something that's somewhat random that just isn't as exciting. But Samu Costa looks kind of wild. Like, I think obviously, you know, you can have whatever playstyles you want, but if you apply the most kind of meta ones from foot.gg, he's a 94.6 GG rating, which puts him like extremely high in the rankings as a CDM. I think it puts him up there with like De Jong and Rodri basically. And yeah, his stats are just immense really. And I think that's why he's so good. But yeah,
better than Vieira's.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Even though Vieira's like bigger and lengthy, which will give him a bonus. But yeah, so yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it is kind of hopefully going to be a good thing for Ultimate Team overall. I don't think we'll see the best of it over this period. Like, we are in always a weird phase in the summer, and I think we are quite deep into the cycle. I mean, as you can tell from the week 40, right? And actually considering about a month or two of that is basically build up to the new game, we are heading towards the end of it, and there's only, EA are likely to kind of try different things and all that, and hopefully once we get into the start of the cycle, we'll see this kind of in full swing, and that'll be nice. I don't know if Josh, you have any, I mean, I know we've talked about it a lot, but kind of, I guess, thoughts around kind of what's going on in the game at the moment in terms of tokens that you wanted to add, or anything Nep said so far.
No, I think just that drive to... I got a few messages again going, feels like there's loads less tokens, and I think that first week kind of messed with people a little bit in terms of like how many tokens we'd get from objectives, how easy it would be to get tokens. I think, as I've said, the cadence feels off. Having to play this week to get Rivals tokens for next week just doesn't... There's parts of it that just don't really make a whole lot of sense to me, and it feels a little too cliff edgy on the side of like getting 1,000 tokens as well. If you're not a great player or if you don't have a lot of time, it feels like you can either get way more than 1,000 tokens because you can smash out all of your Rivals games, get your squad battles done, you got loads from objectives, you can do the SBCs, or you're like scrabbling around to get 800 tokens because you didn't get into elite in squad battles. So that goes from 400 to 200 tokens. You maybe don't have time to get all of your games played in Rivals. So or not, maybe not even get all 8 wins that you need in Rivals. So like you're then, okay, now I've only got 100 tokens there. Well, now I'm 700 tokens short instead of 200 tokens short for the sake of like a few thousand points in squad battles. And I get that it's rewards, but it felt like the whole point of tokens was that everyone can get everything. Like, you just need to play differently, and it's like, I don't know. So if I feel like it still needs balancing, but they've said that, and I'm quite glad that they've kind of openly said, like, we're not going to get this right first time. Like, this is going to, like, we're going to see how you engage with it, and we'll see how that comes. I think maybe it might be worth us, after our hydration break, just kind of briefly talking about like Gauntlet and the changes to Gauntlet and what's happened there, and EA's response to that as well, because I know that they kind of directly responded to Nep.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's hydrate and we'll be back. All right. And actually, it is good enough. Like, it's high enough temperature that we actually should do it. It's not just because we want to put ads in. We should say that right now.
Yeah. Okay. Play Mr. Brightside to distract the crowd from booing.
And yes, we'll be back right after the break. Hello, welcome back after the break. Right, let's get into... Actually, as you said, Josh, interesting to pick up on that thing around the Gauntlet. And actually, we had the whole thing about the increase to 5 squads, which I think, Nep, maybe last time you were on, we were talking about, actually. And yeah, it has changed a bit, but it's changed even more recently. And Josh, do you want to just explain kind of how things have panned out?
Well, I'll actually kind of like hand it over to Nep, really, because I think he kind of had the discussion and conversation around it. I think the crux of it is that Gauntlet's gone from something that was quite play to win, like you could just kind of play it and you would get everything. Maybe there was like an extra reward, and it's gone back. It's kind of been reverted to this like quite intense game mode. And I think the more interesting discussion is around the decision making around why they've done that was kind of briefly explained. So I'll hand over to you now.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I don't mind that it went to 5 teams. Like, I think it should have been 5 teams long ago. I was perplexed that people were stunned that it became 5 teams, because it was communicated at the very start of the game that it will eventually be 5 teams. But yeah, after the first 3, you had to win the Gauntlet to get the player. I can't remember who they were off the top of my head. It was
Kudus was one of them.
Yeah, Kudus was one of them. The left back from West Ham was one of them, and then
perfect the Gauntlet, right? Like,
yeah, you had to get that. Yeah, the 3 and 3. And I actually loved that, because when I went into a game with my Kudus at right mid, people would just quit. Because they're like, oh, he's won 3 out of 3 in a Gauntlet. What a player! They already they went in with that. A lot of FIFA is like mental when you're playing. Like, it's like mentality based. And when people see that you've got a card that's hard to win, they just immediately like put themselves down a step. And so it was really fun going into games with those cards. And it was hard to win them. But that was part of the fun. When you got it, it felt like a genuine achievement.
Yeah, well, actually, on that, it did also feel, which is the point, that actually having a deeper club was giving you an advantage beyond just your skill at the game, right? Sometimes I'd beat someone, I'd be like, I think that guy was probably actually better than me, but I had a better third squad, and it worked, and his third squad was off-chem and bad.
Yeah, and it gave a good strategy about when do you use your best team? Do you save it for that third game and hope that you're 2-0 and somebody's got their bronzes out because they've got nothing more? And I did really like that. And I do wonder, just to go off on a tangent with it, I do wonder if to keep it fresh like that and allow squad depth in the moment to be valuable, because we've talked about the abundance of cards already. I wonder if as the Gauntlet goes on, there should be a requirement to have X number of promo cards from this season in your teams so that you kind of actually collecting these cards just has value for the Gauntlet. But that's maybe another conversation for another day. But I liked it back then, and then they changed it because people were complaining, and they still gave a Gauntlet bonus for getting the perfect Gauntlet, but it was never ever better than the playing and scoring Gauntlet rewards. And as a byproduct of that, it made the Gauntlet boring because people would just put their pad down after they scored a goal. It wasn't difficult to get the perfect Gauntlet because people didn't care to play for the wins, really. They were just, you did have to get some wins, but goals were also there. And although the rewards were pretty good, Gauntlet lost its meaning, but it stayed like that all the way throughout the rest of the game cycle. The EA was super consistent with it. So when they added it to 5 teams, I just thought, yeah, fair enough. I like the Evos that are in the Gauntlet. I'll just play again. I'll get my rewards. I'll experience some of my new players, do some Evos along the way, and that would be great. To see that they hadn't increased the number of attempts that you have from, I think it's 14 or 16 attempts that you get. They hadn't increased that, but then they had made the big reward, the main reward, that you had to get 3 perfect gauntlets. Even pro players just aren't doing it. It wasn't possible. I saw a list of pro players on my timeline crying and complaining. Not crying, but you know what I mean? Just speaking up on the fact that it's just too hard. To go 15-0 in Gauntlet, they can't even go 15-0 in Champs, right? It wasn't fun. And so EA put these rewards behind something that they hadn't done. And so I voiced that on X, and Wolf in the North responded and said basically there's a ton of other accessible content right now across for festival football, but it feels like there's a little gap for those players who love the competitive experience. And whilst I absolutely agree, they have competitive modes that they can give the competitive experience for. They could have put maybe just make bounties work in Rivals. Who knows? Wouldn't that be great? Or put something in Rivals for a good player, whereas there's that competitive edge that encourages people to play up the ranks, or something in Champs that's competitive in objectives or something for people to actually want to go and win. But to change something that has been the same effectively for the entire game cycle, I just didn't think was very good.
Yeah, I mean, I would also add in to that, I personally do quite like a more kind of competitive experience generally, and I actually quite enjoy Gauntlet because I felt like Champs had just kind of lost a lot of its luster over this cycle. And so when Gauntlet was more competitive, I was like, okay, nice, I get a chance to be competitive, but actually it's a competitiveness that probably suits my age, and that I'm not as competitive as I once was, but I do keep my squads, or I kind of hoard players a little bit, so I had decent squads. And so I think that was quite a fun way to be competitive in a slightly different way. So I was a bit disappointed that it changed, and I actually didn't really play it that much I guess I did a bit, but didn't play it as much, I think, almost. And I think what I would say maybe is the middle ground. I quite like the ones they do where it's if you're good, you get to the reward a fair bit quicker. But if you're wanting to just peace out, not peace out exactly, but if you're, wanting to kind of not play as competitively, you can, and you also get the reward eventually. I think that's probably, for me, how they should generally do live events, unless they do sometimes want to throw in the odd more competitive thing here or there, fine. But I think Gauntlet's probably a decent place for that kind of thing. But I think it does, as you were saying, rely on Champs being something that people actually want to play and is the competitive focus, which I think has sort of maybe been a bit more the case post tokens. But then also, on the other hand, I think people are it's not that time of year, basically.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a problem. Josh,
I do think that's the main good argument against like this kind of increase in competitiveness, is that it's not that time of year, and you know the thing with it being a 5-team gauntlet, yeah, I enjoy that actually. I think that's fun, but when you then add in the competitiveness of needing to win it, every single extra win you put in halves the number of people that can win 5 in a row, because you know every game has one winner and one loser, right? And so that actually going from 3 to 5, 3 being the last time you had to win all of your gauntlet games, to now 5, you're now at a quarter of the people that could do 3 in a row can actually do 5 in a row. And so yeah, it felt like a move to more competitive that was unnecessary, especially for this time of year. But I kind of get them trying things. My brain just goes to different places with Gauntlet. Like I'd like kind of, if they just said hardcore Gauntlet, like, oh, we're releasing a hardcore Gauntlet mode and you have to win it to get the rewards, I'm not sure the reaction would have been quite the same, because it's like a take it or leave it. It's like, we're not changing anything. This isn't taking the place of normal Gauntlet or whatever it is. Like, we're just saying this is now a competitive place to play. If you don't want to get involved in champs or don't really want to engage in tokens, come and play hardcore Gauntlet and see if you can get this reward. But for me, I look at Gauntlet and I'm like, there's still so many opportunities with it. Like, I really like the idea of like I don't know what you would call it, but just like survivalist Gauntlet, where actually every game you play removes those players from your club, and you just play until you don't have 18 players in your club.
Yeah.
And it becomes like do you really want to try winning with bronze players because you've used up all of your gold players? Like, I think there's something. And, you can still cap it at like 30 games or whatever it is. But if you're using your 330th best player in your club, I mean, for me, that's probably still an 84 rated objective card that I got from, in September. But I don't know, like, the way that there's definitely an opportunity there to, and I think that maybe this is where the rigidness of champs and rivals, I think, maybe needs to move on. You go, okay, instead of champs this weekend, for this entire week, we're doing this unlimited gauntlet mode where you can only use the same 11 players. Watch the market go bananas when that happens, because people are buying players because they want their 17th best squad to have a slightly better right back. And it's just a 10k promo card that they're going to buy. But now that 10k promo card is 20k, I think there would be so much. I think it would be great for kind of like engaging in the game for a week and building up to this, like we're doing this like unlimited gauntlet. There are things like that I think they could do that are testing, that if we're going to test new things, let's do things that are like pushing the envelope that we've really not seen before, rather than effectively just tweaking the way rewards work for it, because that's all this isn't like a massive test. They've just tweaked the way that the rewards work for the gauntlet. So yeah, I don't want to rail against competitive modes, because I understand why they need to be in the games. But I feel like the more you drive competitiveness, the worse the game feels for the player. If it's not competitive, people can just have fun. My favourite time playing the game recently has been in the first 2 game mode, because yes, it's quick, I'm just in and out, and I can use different teams, and other people are using different teams, because we're all trying to complete objectives, and so I'm using players I've not used before, and it's, he was crap, I'll use somebody else. I'm using like a base hero 𝘠𝘀𝘀 at centre-back and trying to get him to score a header from a corner. Like, I know for some people it's like, this is a tick box exercise, I don't want to do it. But it was fun. Like, I had fun, like, switching my team out every 2 games and using different players. It's difficult to keep track of, and I think EA needs to do a better job of, like, allowing you to track your objectives without having to come out of a menu or without having to write it down on something. That there needs to be a better way to display that visually to you as the user. But that I think is where the game is fun, and I like the idea of being in my 20th game of Gauntlet with players I've not thought about, but would benefit someone like me who I've not, I will not use a Team of the Season card in an SBC if it's not a duplicate. I'm just collecting them at the moment, and so like I have something like 85% of all of the Team of the Season cards, which means when we then get to like the re-releases into packs during footies, I'm going to be trying to complete and get all of those things. That's why I'm grinding the menus, because I like that side of the game, and if that can also give me an advantage when I go into playing like a gauntlet mode like that, then I feel like that's even better. But I recognise that that's for how I like to play the game. Maybe it's not how other people play the game.
Yeah. And anything to add, or shall I ask you for an England prediction for this evening?
Just on that completionist thing, I think EA lack that in the game. There's not a lot. There's a few milestones that haven't ever changed since they introduced them. You still get, is it a golden goat for 300 wins in Rivals since the very first time Rivals got introduced? I do wish that EA would lean into that side of things a lot more, because a lot of gamers will play the game heavy in spite of how good or bad it is if they're working towards completing the game. And I think it would be a net win for everyone involved. Yeah.
I think you're right. Right, well, I will ask you then. What how do you think it's going to go tonight against Ghana?
Tonight specifically?
Well, tonight's maybe less of a big question as to how deep you think England can go as well, I guess is the question.
I think we'll get a comfortable win tonight. I think we'll score 3 or 4 again. I really, really, really enjoyed our game against Croatia. Like, Josh and I have had many a discussion about Southgate's pragmatism, let's say, with how he sets the team up. I'm happy to concede a goal or two, and I thought Croatia's goals actually were quite fantastic. But I'm more than happy to suffer a goal or two if it meant that we play good, fun, attacking, creative football, which is what I felt we did. And so off the back of that, I'm looking at Ghana's team and how they performed in the first game and stuff. And I think we can score 4 or 5 goals tonight.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we needed a new contender for top scorer of the tournament. So
Harry Kane, step
maybe
up.
It'll be Kane. I think that's fair. And do you kind of feel like it's promising for the rest of the tournament? I do think, just personally, like the difference having a kind of balanced midfield makes is pretty big in the tournament generally, and I think that could actually be something that allows us to go. I was going to say further than we've gone before, but that would be pretty far, so that'd be good.
Yeah, no, I think we can win it, man. I do think we can win it. I think there's a couple of nations that I thought were going to be good this World Cup that have really not shown much promise at all. And I know teams can build into it, and once you get out of the groups, maybe it's a bit different. But France looked good, but everyone else, I was kind of I reckon we can beat them.
Yeah, Josh, what are you thinking?
I'll go in reverse order. I want to see what France look like when someone really sticks it on their midfield. Because if you allow that front four to play, they'll win. They would win the World Cup if everyone allows that front four to play. They are so good. I think tonight's going to be slightly cagier than people expect. Ghana are going to probably set up 5-4-1. Which is how they played against Germany when they played them last. They aren't very good. I think their win against Panama was their first win in like 9 months. So I'm not overly worried about like us losing the game. My slight worry is that they have got good pace on the break and good technical players going forward. And if we find it difficult to break down a very deep block, because that 20 minutes we had against Croatia, I thought we were given quite a lot of space to play in, and that it meant that press was a lot easier to do. I slightly worry how that will work. I would quite like to see Declan Rice rested personally, because I worry that he's carrying a knock, and that's why he got subbed off early in the game against Croatia. And if we're going to go deep in the tournament, I think you're right, that midfield of Anderson and Rice kind of has to be there at the end. And if we play Rice trying to win a second game against, like, that might not even get us a better like path to the final if we win the group, I slightly worry. But you do have to try and win every game, and maybe it's good to get them to play together. I quite like to see 𝘬𝘰 play, because I didn't like 𝘠𝑪 and Stones. I thought they slightly struggled in that first half. But yeah, I'm confident, but I'm less 4-5 goal confident. I'm more like we'll score maybe 1 or 2 from set pieces. That's because I just think Ghana are going to sit so deep. I can't see them coming out either, because they've got their win. I think they're going to be protecting goal difference as much as they can if they are losing the game, rather than necessarily trying to get back into it if we're say 2-0 up.
Yeah, I mean, also with Semenyo. Like, I don't know, that just feels like such a great kind of route to a goal, having Semenyo and playing on the counter, and the other players they have as well. And also Jordan Ayew is just one of those players who just, I don't know, he's never seemingly that great, but then just randomly gets a goal just to annoy you know. Happened too many times.
By the way, I still maintain Argentina aren't very good.
I don't think
they weren't great against Austria. It's 2-0, it looks comfortable. They scored in the last minute. It was 1-0 up until then, and it was only 1-0 up until then because Messi's very, very good. And and if Messi's very, very good and carries them to the World Cup, that's absolutely a possibility. But they aren't playing brilliant teams, and I still don't think they're very good.
Yeah. I will say that I wouldn't put too much stock into my opinion on the World Cup, because I thought Turkey were my dark horse and they were the first team eliminated. So
I feel like that's like the Turkey curse. They're like, everyone's always like, oh yeah, Turkey dark horse, and then they just never do anything.
Then they fall at the first fence, and they have to erect the tent around it.
Great. Well, we are ready to wrap up. It's been great to chat again. We didn't actually, which is nice, not too much token chat, because it's been quite a lot over the last couple of weeks. As mentioned previously, we'll be doing a supporter episode this week, which is more gameplay focused. Do you have any questions or thoughts or whatever on that topic, then please do send that in. And yes, thank you very much to all you listeners tuning in. If you'd like to become a supporter, then you can head over to the Patreon, just search Support for Weekly for an extra podcast every week. And yes, thank you very much to Nep. Good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always good to chat. Yeah.
It's been good. And thank you very much to Josh as well.
Yes, my dark horse pick was Japan. Their 4-0 win against Tunisia looked very spicy. So I'm hoping they'll go far.
Yeah, and well, thank you very much to all you listeners tuning in, and a big thank you to all those supporters, including those icon patrons.
Dave B, Darren W, Hugh J, Rob W, Josh R, Ralph, Brian, Michael B, Adam R, Make B, Michael H, Rob S, Michael K, Neil P, Jake S, Tom B, Alex M, Damon H, L, James B, Sam K, The Shirt Locker, Lee A, Chris G, Mark M, Dom P, Rob P, Roger D, Waterman, Also Ran, and Juicy. Plus a special thanks to Luke M, Dave B, Hugh J, Tom M, Darren W, and Pato Foot for advice and production assistance. Before I leave you, just one more thing to add though. Ultimate Team is a bit like life really. It has its many ups and downs. If you're having a few more downs than ups in real life in these more difficult times, then please don't feel that you're alone or need to struggle on without taking action. If you go to thecalmzone.net, there's loads of resources, advice, support, or even just a friendly chat for anyone who needs it. If it sounds like it could help you, then head over to thecalmzone.net. And for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.